My name's Rebecca Einan. I'm a Senior Research Fellow here at the Oxford Internet Institute, and I'm here talking to Sarah Porter, who's a Visiting Fellow at the OII and used to direct a whole range of programmes at JISC on e-learning, open education resources, digital literacy, and she's one of the organisers for our ICA Preconference about innovation in higher education. And so as Sarah won't be able to travel to the event, we thought it would be great to talk to her about her thoughts and why the conference is important and so on. So thanks very much, Sarah, for agreeing to talk to us.
Thanks, Rebecca. It's great to talk to you today.
So one of the first things I'd like to ask really is, why is it really a good moment, or useful really, to hold a conference on innovation in higher education at this moment?
That's a great question, and I think higher education is facing a lot of challenges at the moment and going through really quite a lot of upheaval. And I think those of us working in higher education, we feel like there's always change going on, but particularly at the moment there are some really big challenges and big opportunities. So there are the challenges of increasing kind of privatisation of higher education, public investment in higher education dropping in all countries actually around the world. And so increasing emphasis on students paying for higher education, and then technology providing quite a big ripple of change potentially so that things can be done in different ways.
And so you mentioned technology there, so are the whole hype and interest around MOOCs very important in this, kind of igniting this debate again?
I think they are. I mean, I think, as I'm sure people who come to the pre-conference will be debating, there are pros and cons in MOOCs. There are some very important issues. There are some things where we do talk about hype, and we, you know, if you look at the press, there's been such a lot of talk about MOOCs. Not all of it well informed, but I think what's really useful about MOOCs at the moment in igniting the debate is it's really put a focus on technology in education in a way that actually I don't feel we've had that debate for really some years. Yeah. So people are actually properly looking at, you know, online learning is a serious option here. Students are interested in doing this. And by looking at MOOCs, we're really thinking about, you know, really at the top of institutions and in all their strategies, what part is that going to play in education?
Yeah, yeah. And so for you, given your background and your expertise in this area, where do you think this field is going in online learning? Where are the most interesting places for us to be looking?
Well, I think some of the big challenges that are coming out are to do with every university or college really thinking about what is their take going to be on this. And because things are developing so fast, I mean, if we see like MOOCs, how much they've changed in the last couple of years, but things like personalised learning, online assessment, the issues around accreditation, for example, all these things within even 6 or 12 months are really, really volatile and changing fast. And we're seeing lots of different players in higher education. So the whole issues of business models are not just about, you know, how do we continue to sustain what we've done before, but it's about new players coming in. There are private providers, the role of publishers, for example, and other organisations who may be owning knowledge assets now. Why couldn't they be offering undergraduate degrees? And so actually a lot of the issues aren't really about the technology, but the technology is an affordance that allows us to look at these other things.
Yeah, so it's kind of throwing light back on some of these challenges. And so what advice would you then give to institutions and so on who are trying to operate in these kinds of spaces?
Well, that's a really good point. And I mean, I really hope at the pre-conference that some of that will come out. I mean, I think one of the things is really people have got to try and keep up to date with what's going on. And that's a really big challenge because there is so much. You know, you need to be understanding what's going on in the field, but you need to be thinking about your own strategy really and what's important to you and what kind of institution you are actually. I mean, that sounds quite high level, but in fact I think part of the problems we've had with online technology has been when that's been quite divorced or disconnected from the actual strategy of the institution, and so things have sometimes then happened in one little silo in one area of the institution. I think, you know, institutions need to think, what are we trying to do here? Do we want to just be purely campus-based, in which case we're looking at a blended learning experience, and how do we best support the students that we know well? Or are we looking at bringing in other learners? Are we looking at connecting with people all over the world? What about the partnerships we've already got in place? Can we use those partnerships to do some different things? So I think there's a lot there about understanding what the context is and really understanding yourselves actually and looking back and going, what is it we want to do?
Yeah, yeah. So from what you're saying there, it seems like it's going to be a very kind of higher education is going to have multiple players and very different kind of shapes and forms in all sorts of different contexts. So for you, as about to be a new mum, what would you see for your child in the future? Do you think there'll still be campus-based institutions with the blended learning arrangement? Do you think it will be all online? What's your kind of vision for the future?
That's a really great question. Yeah, I mean, we know from research that learners value more than anything face-to-face contact. However, I think that's starting to change into, with social media and everything, it's about social contact, and actually how much that really has to be face-to-face is quite an interesting question. If you use Skype a lot for doing a lot of your work, as I do, at what point is that social contact or face-to-face? Where's the boundary really? Does it matter? So I mean, I think what we're going to expect in the future is very much a blended experience. And what I really hope we'll have is a very learner-focused experience. And I really hope we'll be talking about that at the pre-conference as well, is, rather than it being universities and colleges providing a higher education product that people buy, it should be much more about an individual trying to get the best out of their life's journey through education. And actually with technology we can do a lot more there. So I think it will be blended, but I would really like to see something that's very much focused on the learner and what they need.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I mean, that's so interesting. So from this pre-conference, what do you really hope the day will bring, what we will come away with from it?
Well, I hope that we're going to hear some really fascinating talks. We've got some great people coming. There'll be some really fabulous insights, some really practical experience and some more theoretical, far-reaching visions, looking at things like business models, for example, and accreditation, some of those big issues that we're all tackling really in things like MOOCs. But I hope we'll come out with some suggestions for further research and really some suggestions for how we can connect up the research communities with the people working in practice and actually turn that into real things that will make a difference for learners in the end.
That sounds great. Well, I'm really looking forward to the event, so thanks so much for being part of it and organising it. And for those of you who might be interested in signing up, there's all the details online, the registration, the programme of the day, the papers and so on.